Hannah's knees hit the frozen ground. She couldn't feel them anymore. Couldn't feel her hands either, the one still gripping her baby's blanket like it was the last rope between life and death. "Mama?" Ruth's voice cracked behind her. "Mama, get up." But Hannah couldn't. Her body had finally betrayed her. 3 children, 15 miles of snow, and she had nothing left. "Please," she whispered to no one. "Please, not like this. Not them." The wind answered with silence, then hoofbeats. Subscribe now and follow this story to the very end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this journey travels. The baby had stopped crying an hour ago. That scared Hannah more than the cold. "Joe." She shifted him against her chest, pulling back the blanket to see his face. His lips were pale, too pale, but his chest still moved, still breathing. "Stay with me, baby. Stay with Mama." "Mama, I'm tired." Sammy tugged at her skirt, his small voice thin as paper. "Can we stop now?" "Not yet, sweetheart." Hannah forced the words out through chattering teeth. "Just a little further." But she didn't know how much further. The last town had been clear enough. Get out by sundown, or face the sheriff. She'd begged. God help her, she'd gotten on her knees in front of Cornelius Dade and begged for one more week. He'd smiled. That wet yellow smile that made her skin crawl. "One more week cost something, Mrs. Calloway," he'd said, leaning close enough for her to smell the tobacco on his breath. "You know what I want." She'd rather die in the snow. "Ruth, hold your brother's hand." Hannah reached back without looking. "Ruth." No answer. Hannah spun around, heart slamming against her ribs. Ruth stood 10 feet behind, frozen in place, staring at something on the trail. "Ruth, what are you?" Then Hannah saw it. A wooden marker half buried in the snow. Someone had carved words into it, rough and uneven. "Miller family. Died here. February 1877. 4 names, 2 of them small. Children's names." Ruth's face had gone white. "Mama, are we gonna die too?" "No." Hannah grabbed her daughter's shoulders, gripping hard enough to leave marks. "Look at me. We are not going to die. You hear me? Not today. Not ever. I won't let it happen." Ruth's eyes, those 2 old eyes that had seen too much, searched her mother's face. "You promise?" Hannah couldn't promise. She had nothing left to promise with. No food, no money, no husband, no town that would take them in, but she said it anyway. "I promise." Gutted. They walked another mile before Sammy fell. One moment he was trudging beside her, the next, he was face down in the snow, his small body crumpled like a discarded doll. "Sammy!" Hannah dropped to her knees, baby still pressed to her chest. She turned him over with her free hand. His eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. "Sammy, wake up. Open your eyes for Mama." Nothing. "Ruth, take your brother." Hannah thrust the baby toward her daughter. "Now." Ruth grabbed Joe, stumbling under his weight. Her thin arms shook. "Mama, what's wrong with him?" "He's just tired." Hannah scooped Sammy up, cradling him against her shoulder. He weighed almost nothing. When had he gotten so light? "He's just tired, that's all." But she knew better. She'd seen this before back in Missouri, when the fever took her father. The body giving up before the mind was ready. She couldn't carry them all. The thought hit her like a fist to the chest. She had one baby, one 6-year-old boy who wouldn't wake up, and a 10-year-old girl who was trying so hard to be brave. And she couldn't carry them all. "Mama?" Ruth's voice was strange. Flat. "Someone's coming." Hannah looked up. A rider. Single horse. Moving slow through the snow, still a quarter mile out. She couldn't see his face, just the dark shape of a man hunched against the wind, his hat pulled low. Fear gripped her throat. Out here, a lone man could mean anything. Help, or something much worse. "Get behind me," Hannah said. But, "Behind me, Ruth. Now!" Ruth obeyed, pressing herself against Hannah's back, the baby whimpering between them. Hannah stood her ground, Sammy heavy in her arms, watching the rider approach. He didn't hurry. Didn't slow down either. Just kept that same steady pace like he had all the time in the world. When he was close enough for her to see his face, she felt something shift in her chest. Not relief. Not yet. But something. He was older than she'd expected. Maybe 35, maybe 40. Hard to tell with the beard and the weathered skin. His eyes were dark, deep-set, carrying a weight that had nothing to do with the trail. A scar ran along his left forearm, visible even through the snow gathering on his coat. He reined in his horse 20 feet away, said nothing. Hannah tightened her grip on Sammy. "We don't want trouble." The man's gaze moved from her to Ruth, to the baby, to the boy in her arms. His expression didn't change. "Didn't say you did." "Then ride on." Hannah lifted her chin even as her legs trembled beneath her. "We're fine." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he swung down from his saddle boots, crunching in the snow. He was tall, broad across the shoulders, the kind of man who could hurt her without trying. Hannah stepped back. "I said ride on." "Ma'am?" His voice was low, rough at the edges. "That boy in your arms ain't moving. Your girl's shaking so hard she's about to drop that baby. And you—" He paused, his eyes dropping to her feet. "You ain't wearing shoes." Hannah looked down. He was right. Somewhere in the last mile her boots had finally given out. She'd kicked them off without thinking, the worn soles more hindrance than help. Her feet were bare. Blue. She couldn't feel them at all. "I'm fine," she said. "No, ma'am, you ain't." He took another step forward. Hannah flinched back, nearly losing her grip on Sammy. The man stopped, raised both hands, palms out. "I ain't gonna hurt you, any of you. I just want to help." "I don't need help." "With respect, ma'am, that's the dumbest thing I've heard all winter." Hannah stared at him. Something flickered across his face. Not anger, not mockery. Something sadder. Something that looked almost like recognition. "My name's Elijah Mercer," he said. "Most folks call me Eli. I got a cabin about 4 miles north. Ain't much, but it's warm. Got a fire going, food in the pantry. You and your young ones are welcome to it." "Why?" The question came out sharper than she intended. But she needed to know. Men didn't help for nothing. Her husband had taught her that. Cornelius Dade had reminded her. Eli didn't answer right away. He looked at Sammy, at the way the boy's head lolled against her shoulder. Then he looked at her, really looked like he was seeing something beneath the exhaustion and the fear and the desperate pride. "Because I've been where you are," he said quietly. "And nobody helped me." Ruth broke the silence. "Mama, Sammy's really cold." Hannah looked down at her son. His lips had gone from pale to gray. His breathing was barely visible now. "Please," Eli said. "Let me help, just until the boy's warm. Then you can go wherever you want. I won't stop you." Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to keep walking, to die on her feet rather than trust another man. But Sammy wasn't moving, and Ruth was crying, and the baby had started to wail, a thin, weak sound that cut through the wind like a blade. "If you hurt my children," Hannah said, her voice steady, even as her body shook, "I will kill you. I don't care if I have to crawl back from the grave to do it." Eli nodded once. "Fair enough." He moved toward her slowly, hands still visible, and reached for Sammy. Hannah's arms tightened instinctively. "I can carry him," Eli said. "You're about to fall over." "I can—" "Ma'am." His voice was gentle but firm. "You can't carry them all. Not anymore." The words hit something deep inside her. Something she'd been trying to hold together for months, maybe years. She felt it crack just a little. She let him take Sammy. Eli cradled the boy against his chest like he'd done it 1,000 times before. His movements were careful, deliberate. He adjusted the blanket around Sammy's face, tucking it tight against the cold. "He needs warmth fast," Eli said. "We gotta move." "Ruth?" Hannah turned to her daughter. "Can you walk?" Ruth nodded, but her legs were shaking so hard she could barely stand. Eli looked at her, then at Hannah, then at his horse. He seemed to be calculating something. "Here's what we're gonna do," he said. "You and the girl ride. I'll carry the boys and walk." In this snow. Done worse. Hannah wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she didn't need his charity, didn't need his pity, didn't need anything from any man ever again. But Ruth was crying harder now, and Sammy wasn't moving, and her feet had gone from numb to burning, which she knew was bad. Worse than numb. "Fine," she said. Eli helped her onto the horse first, then lifted Ruth up behind her. The baby went into Hannah's arms. She held him tight, feeling his small heartbeat against her chest. "You ready?" Eli asked. Hannah looked down at him. He was already starting to walk Sammy secure against his shoulder, heading into the wind without complaint. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. He didn't look back. "Ask me again when your boy's warm." The 4 miles felt like 40. Hannah watched Eli's back the whole way, waiting for him to slow down to complain, to demand something in return. He never did. He just walked steady as a metronome, one foot in front of the other, Sammy's small body protected by his coat. Ruth pressed against her back arms, wrapped tight around Hannah's waist. She hadn't spoken since they started riding, just held on. "Mama," she finally whispered. "Yeah, baby. Is Sammy gonna die?" Hannah closed her eyes. "No." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." "How?" Hannah looked at Eli's back, at the way he hunched his shoulders against the wind, at the way he kept checking on Sammy without breaking stride. "Because that man's not gonna let him." Ruth was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do you trust him?" "No." "Then why?" "Because I don't have a choice." Hannah's voice cracked. "Because I can't do this alone anymore, Ruth. I've been trying so hard, and it's not enough. None of it's enough." Ruth's arms tightened around her. "I think you're enough, Mama." Hannah couldn't answer. The tears came too fast, freezing on her cheeks before they could fall. The cabin appeared out of the snow like a ghost. It wasn't much weathered boards, a sagging porch, a chimney that leaned slightly to the left. But smoke rose from the stovepipe, and light glowed behind the frosted window. Eli pushed through the door without pausing. "Get inside, now." Hannah slid off the horse, nearly collapsing when her feet hit the ground. Ruth caught her arm. "I got you, Mama." They stumbled inside together, the heat hitting them like a wall. After hours in the cold, it was almost painful. Eli was already laying Sammy on a cot near the stove. He stripped off the boy's wet clothes, wrapped him in blankets, started rubbing his hands and feet. "More blankets in the trunk," he said without looking up. "Get the baby warm first." Hannah moved on instinct, finding the trunk, pulling out quilts that smelled like cedar and wood smoke. She wrapped Joe tight, then handed him to Ruth. "Hold him close, skin to skin if you can." Ruth nodded, already pulling the baby inside her coat. Hannah turned back to Sammy. Eli was still working on him, chafing his hands, checking his breathing, muttering things she couldn't hear. "Is he—" She couldn't finish. "He's alive." Eli's voice was tight. "But he needs food, warm liquids, rest." "I don't—" Hannah's voice broke. "I don't have anything to pay you." Eli finally looked at her. His eyes were dark in the firelight, unreadable. "I didn't ask for payment." "Everyone asks eventually." Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Or anger. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. "I had a boy once. About this one's age. He looked back at Sammy. Didn't save him. Couldn't. Fire took him and his mama both while I was too drunk to smell the smoke. Hannah's breath caught. So you ask me why I'm doing this, Eli said. Because that boy's alive. And I can help. And maybe that's all I got left that means anything. He stood up, brushing his hands on his pants. There's beans in the pot, cornmeal in the bag. Make yourself something to eat. I'll sleep in the barn. Eli. He stopped at the door, his hand on the frame. Thank you. He didn't turn around, just nodded once and walked out into the snow. Hannah stood there for a long moment, listening to Sammy's breathing, to Ruth's soft singing to the baby, to the fire crackling in the stove. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. It terrified her. Sammy woke up 3 hours later. Mama! His voice was hoarse, confused. Where are we? Hannah pulled him into her arms so hard he squeaked in protest. We're safe, baby. We're safe. I'm hungry. She laughed a broken, sobbing laugh that didn't sound like her at all. I know you are. Let me get you something. She made him eat slowly, spooning warm broth into his mouth while Ruth watched from the corner, the baby finally asleep against her chest. Mama, who's that man? Sammy asked between bites. His name's Eli. He helped us. Is he nice? Hannah thought about it. About the way he'd carried Sammy through the snow. About the story he'd told the one that had cracked something open inside her. I think so, she said. I think maybe he is. That night, after the children were asleep, Hannah stepped onto the porch. The snow had stopped. The sky was clear, full of stars so bright they hurt to look at. Her breath made clouds in the cold air. Eli was sitting on the steps, a knife in one hand, a piece of wood in the other. He didn't look up when she came out. Kids okay? Yeah. She sat down beside him, leaving a careful space between them. Sammy woke up. He's eating. Eli nodded, kept carving. What are you making? He held up the wood. It was starting to look like a horse ruff, but recognizable. For the boy, he said. When he's feeling better. Hannah watched his hands move sure and steady despite the cold. You didn't have to do any of this. No. But you did anyway. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, you said you came from the last town. They run you out. Hannah's jaw tightened. Cornelius Dade owned our debt. He gave me a choice: pay up, or pay another way. Eli's knife paused. What kind of way? The kind no woman should have to pay. The knife started moving again, but harder now, angrier. Dade, he said. Fat man, yellow teeth. You know him. Know of him. Eli's voice was flat. He's got a reputation. What kind? The kind that ends with women disappearing and nobody asking questions. Hannah felt the cold settle deeper into her bones. He said he'd send men after me, to bring me back. Eli looked at her, then really looked. His eyes were hard. They won't find you here. You can't promise that. No, he said. But I can promise they'll regret it if they try. Hannah went inside a few minutes later, but she didn't sleep. She lay on the floor beside her children, watching the firelight dance across the ceiling, listening to their breathing. 4 miles away, there was a man who wanted her, who wouldn't stop until he had her. But tonight, there was a door between them, and a cabin, and a stranger who'd carried her son through the snow without asking for anything in return. It wasn't much, but for the first time in a long time, it was enough. Hannah woke to the sound of wood splitting. She sat up fast, heart-pounding hands already reaching for the children. Ruth was curled around Joe, both still asleep. Sammy lay on the cot, his color better, his breathing steady. Another crack. Then another. She moved to the window and pushed the frost aside with her palm. Eli was outside shirtless, despite the cold, swinging an axe into a fallen log like he was fighting something that couldn't fight back. "Mama?" Hannah turned. Ruth was awake now, watching her with those two sharp eyes. "Go back to sleep, baby." "I can't." Ruth sat up slowly, careful not to wake Joe. "I keep thinking they're coming." "Who?" "The men, from town." Ruth's voice dropped. "Mr. Dade's men." Hannah crossed the room and knelt beside her daughter. "They don't know where we are. They'll find out. They always find out." Ruth's chin trembled. "That's what Mr. Dade said when you told him no. He said he'd find you anywhere." Hannah's blood went cold. "When did he say that to you?" "Last week, when you were doing laundry. He came to the house and you weren't there, so he talked to me instead." "What else did he say?" Ruth's eyes filled with tears. "He said you'd come around eventually, that women like you always do. And if you didn't—" She couldn't finish. Hannah pulled her daughter into her arms, holding tight enough to hurt. "He's never going to touch you. You hear me? Never." "But Mama—" "Never, Ruth. I'd die first." The door opened. Eli stood in the frame, axe in one hand, his chest slick with sweat, despite the freezing air. "Something wrong." Hannah stood, keeping Ruth behind her. "Nothing." Eli's eyes moved from her face to Ruth's tears. He didn't push, just nodded once. "Breakfast'll be ready in 20. Oatmeal and salt pork. Kids need to eat." He turned and walked back out. Ruth watched him go. "I don't like him." "You don't have to like him. He could be lying. About everything. He could be." Hannah looked at the closed door. "But he's not." "How do you know?" Hannah thought about the way Eli had carried Sammy through the snow, about the wooden horse he was carving, about the pain in his eyes when he talked about his son. "Because liars don't look that broken," she said. They ate in silence. Eli had cleared the small table, set out 4 plates, poured water into cups he'd carved himself. Everything in the cabin bore his mark, rough but careful, made by hands that needed something to do. Sammy ate like he hadn't seen food in weeks, which Hannah realized wasn't far from the truth. "Slow down," she said. "You'll make yourself sick." "But it's good." Sammy grinned, oatmeal on his chin. "Mama, can we stay here forever?" Hannah's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. "Sammy? This place is warm, and there's food, and Mr. Eli has a horse, and we're not staying forever." Ruth cut in, her voice sharp. "We're just here until Mama figures out what to do next. Right, Mama?" Hannah looked at her daughter, then at Eli. He was watching her, waiting. "Right," she said. "Just until we figure things out." Eli nodded slowly. "Fair enough." But something flickered across his face, something that looked almost like disappointment. After breakfast, Hannah tried to help clean up. Eli waved her off. "You need rest. All of you do." "I'm not helpless." "Never said you were." He scraped the plates into a bucket. "But your feet are torn up bad. Saw the blood on the blankets this morning." Hannah looked down. He was right. Her feet were wrapped in rags, but the blood had soaked through during the night. "I've had worse." "That don't make it okay." Eli set the bucket down. "Let me look at them." "No." "Mrs. Calloway." "I said no." Her voice came out harder than she intended. "I don't need you touching me." Eli went still. Something shifted in his eyes, not anger, but understanding. "All right," he said quietly. "There's clean bandages in the trunk. Salt in the jar by the stove. Mix it with warm water, soak your feet twice a day. Should help with the infection." Hannah stared at him. "How did you know they're infected?" "Because you're favoring your left side when you walk, and your skin's got that gray look that means fever's coming." He picked up the bucket again. "I've seen men lose feet to frostbite out here. Ain't gonna let that happen to you." He walked out before she could respond. Ruth was watching from the corner, arms crossed. He notices a lot. Yes. That's dangerous. Hannah looked at her daughter, 10 years old, and already thinking like a woman who'd been hurt too many times. "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe it's just kind." "Kind men don't exist, Mama. You said so yourself." Hannah had said that, after Thomas died, after the creditors came, after Dade started circling like a vulture. "Maybe I was wrong," she said. Ruth didn't answer. The fever came that afternoon. Hannah felt it building, the ache behind her eyes, the heat in her skin, the way her thoughts started to blur at the edges. She tried to hide it, tried to keep moving, but her body had other plans. She was carrying Joe across the room when her legs gave out. "Mama!" Ruth's scream echoed off the walls. Hannah hit the floor hard, twisting at the last second to keep from crushing the baby. Joe wailed. Sammy started crying. Ruth was at her side in seconds, hands shaking. "Mama, Mama, wake up." "I'm awake." Hannah's voice sounded far away. "I'm fine." "You're not fine, you're burning up." The door slammed open. Eli crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees beside her. How long have you been running a fever?" Hannah tried to focus on his face. It kept splitting into 2. "I don't know. A few hours." "Damn it." Eli scooped her up like she weighed nothing. "Girl, take the baby, now." Ruth grabbed Joe, backing away, as Eli carried Hannah to the cot. "Put me down," Hannah protested weakly. "I can walk. You can't even stand." He laid her down, pressing his palm to her forehead. His hand was rough and cold, and she wanted to lean into it. "She's burning. Must be 103, maybe higher." "What do we do?" Ruth's voice was high with fear. "Mama, what do we do?" Hannah couldn't answer. The room was spinning now, the walls closing in. She heard Eli's voice like it was coming from underwater. "Same thing we do for any fever. Cool her down, keep her hydrated. Pray it breaks before morning." "And if it doesn't?" Eli didn't answer. The next hours were a blur. Hannah drifted in and out, caught between nightmares and reality. Sometimes she saw Thomas alive, laughing, reaching for her. Sometimes she saw Dade, his yellow smile filling her vision. Sometimes she saw her children, but they were older, harder, their eyes full of blame. "Mama!" Ruth's voice cut through the haze. "Mama, please, please don't leave us." Hannah tried to speak, but her mouth wouldn't work. "She's fighting." Eli's voice low and steady. "That's good. Means she ain't ready to quit." "What if the fever doesn't break?" "It will." "You don't know that." "No." A pause. "But I know her. Women like her don't die easy." "You don't know her at all." "I know enough." Eli's voice softened. "I know she walked 15 miles through snow with 3 children and no shoes. I know she turned down whatever Dade offered because her pride was worth more than her safety. And I know she's still breathing, even though her body's got every reason to quit." Another pause. "That tells me everything I need to know." Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Then, "If she dies, I'll kill you. If she dies, I'll let you." Hannah heard that and wanted to scream. Wanted to tell them she wasn't going anywhere, but the darkness pulled her back under. She woke to silence. The fever had broken. She could feel the difference. Her head was clearer. Her skin cool with sweat instead of burning hot. She opened her eyes. Eli was sitting by the cot, his head bowed, a worn Bible open in his lap. His lips were moving, but no sound came out. He was praying. Hannah watched him for a long moment. This man who'd carried her children through a blizzard, who'd stayed up all night nursing a stranger's fever, who was now talking to a God he probably blamed for everything he'd lost. "Does it help?" Eli's head snapped up. "You're awake." "Does it help?" she asked again. "The praying." He closed the Bible slowly. "Sometimes. Not always." He set it aside. How do you feel? Like I got trampled by a horse. That's about right. He stood stretching muscles that had been still too long. Kids are asleep. Ruth fought it until about an hour ago. She was watching you the whole time. She does that. Hannah tried to sit up and failed. She's been taking care of me since her father died. That's a lot for a child to carry. She's not a child anymore. Hannah stared at the ceiling. That's my fault. How do you figure? I made her grow up too fast, made her see things no 10-year-old should see. Hannah's throat tightened. When Dade came to the house that first time, I told her to hide in the cellar. She saw through the cracks in the floorboards, saw everything. Eli's jaw tightened. What did she see? Him, touching me, telling me what he wanted. Hannah's voice went flat. I fought him off that time. But Ruth saw my dress torn, saw the bruises on my arms. She hasn't looked at a man the same way since. Eli was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I'm sorry that happened to you. Don't be sorry. Just... Hannah closed her eyes. Just don't be like him. I'm not. I know. She opened her eyes and looked at him. I knew the moment you didn't look at me like I was something to take. Eli held her gaze. You're not something to take. You're someone to protect. I don't need protecting. Maybe not, but you deserve it anyway. The next morning, Hannah made herself get up. Her legs wobbled, her feet screamed. But she walked anyway because she'd spent too long being carried and she needed to feel like herself again. Ruth was helping Sammy practice letters at the table. Joe was playing with wooden blocks that Eli must have made. The cabin smelled like coffee and firewood and something that might have been hope. You shouldn't be up, Eli said from the stove. Probably not. Stubborn woman? Learned it from my mother. He almost smiled. Coffee's ready. Sit down before you fall down. She sat, wrapped her hands around the cup he gave her, felt the heat seep into her bones. Thank you, she said. For everything. Don't mention it. I'm mentioning it. She looked at him over the rim of her cup. You didn't have to do any of this. You could have left us on that road and nobody would have blamed you. I would have blamed me. Why? He was quiet for a long moment, staring into his own coffee like it held answers. After the fire, he said finally, I spent 2 years trying to drink myself to death. Blamed God. Blamed myself. Blamed everyone I could think of. He set the cup down. Then one day I woke up in a ditch outside of Abilene, and there was this old woman standing over me. Half my teeth, one good eye smelled like she hadn't bathed in a month, and she looked down at me and she said, You gonna die in that ditch, son, or you gonna get up and do something useful? Hannah waited. I asked her why she cared. She said she didn't, but God did, and he'd told her to ask. Eli shook his head. I didn't believe in God anymore, but I got up anyway, just to prove her wrong. And did you prove her wrong? Still working on it. He looked at her, then really looked. But every time I do something useful, every time I help someone instead of hurting it, feels like maybe she was right. Hannah didn't know what to say to that. So she just nodded and drank her coffee and watched her children play. Ruth came to her later that afternoon. Hannah was sitting on the porch, a blanket around her shoulders, watching Eli teach Sammy how to throw a rope. Her son's laughter carried across the clearing light, careless, like he'd forgotten everything that happened before. He's good with Sammy, Ruth said, settling beside her. Yes. Sammy likes him. I know. Ruth was quiet for a moment. I don't trust him. You've said that. But... Ruth hesitated. Maybe I don't have to trust him. Maybe I just have to watch him. Hannah looked at her daughter. What changed? Last night, when you were sick. Ruth stared at her hands. He stayed up the whole time. Didn't sleep, didn't eat. Just kept checking on you. Kept praying. I know. I woke up and saw him. And when I told him I'd kill him if you died, you know what he said? Ruth's voice cracked. He said he'd let me. Hannah's chest tightened. A bad man wouldn't say that, Ruth continued. A bad man would have gotten mad, would have hit me or threatened me, but he just accepted it, like he understood. Maybe he did. Ruth looked up, eyes shining. Do you think he's good? Mama, really? Hannah thought about everything she'd seen, the gentleness, the pain, the steady patience that never seemed to run out. I think he's trying to be, she said. Ruth nodded slowly. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, I'll give him a chance. Ruth stood up. But I'm still watching. That's my girl. The riders came at dusk. Hannah heard them first hoofbeats on frozen ground, too many to be travelers, too deliberate to be passing through. She was inside with the children when Eli burst through the door. Get back, away from the windows. What's happening? Riders, 4 of them. His face was tight. They don't look friendly. Hannah's heart stopped. Dade. Maybe, maybe not. Eli grabbed his rifle from above the fireplace. Stay here. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Eli. He turned at the door. If something happens to me, there's a horse in the barn and supplies in the cellar. Take the north trail. Don't look back. Then he was gone. Hannah gathered the children close, pressed against the wall farthest from the door. Ruth was shaking. Sammy was crying. Joe whimpered in her arms. Through the thin walls, she could hear voices. Evening, friend. A man's voice thick with false courtesy. Name's Bill Hartley. Work for Cornelius Dade. I know who you work for. Then you know why we're here. Hartley's tone hardened. We're looking for a woman. Widow with 3 kids. Left town without paying what she owes. Ain't seen anyone like that. That's so. Boots crunched on snow. Funny, because her tracks lead right to this cabin. Silence. Now, Hartley continued. Mr. Dade's a reasonable man. He don't want trouble. Just wants what's his. She ain't his. She owes him money. So send a bill. A harsh laugh. You got a smart mouth, stranger, Mr. Dade don't like smart mouths. Mr. Dade can go to hell. More silence. Then, boys search the cabin. Hannah's blood turned to ice. Nobody's going in that cabin. Eli's voice was flat, deadly. There's 4 of us and 1 of you. Then you better hope you're all good shots, because I ain't missing. The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. Then a click. The unmistakable sound of a rifle being cocked. You really want to die for some woman you don't even know? Hartley asked. I've died for less. Another long pause. This ain't over, Hartley said finally. Mr. Dade wants her, and Mr. Dade gets what he wants. You just made yourself an enemy friend. I've had worse. Hoofbeats. Retreating slowly at first, then faster, until the sound faded into nothing. The door opened. Eli stood there, rifle still in hand, his face carved from stone. They're gone. Hannah's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, children still clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face. They found us, she whispered. How did they find us? Tracks in the snow. Eli knelt beside her. But they won't come back tonight. Too dark, too cold. But they'll come back. Yes. And next time there'll be more of them. Eli didn't deny it. Hannah looked up at him, at this man, who'd just stared down 4 armed men for a woman he barely knew. Why? She asked. Why won't you just let me go? Because you asked me once what kind of man I was. Eli's voice was rough. And I'm still trying to figure out the answer. Ruth stepped forward, small, fierce. her hands balled into fists. "What do we do now?" she asked. Eli looked at her, at this girl who didn't trust him but was asking anyway. "Now," he said, "we get ready." Hannah wiped her eyes, pushed herself to her feet, made her voice steady even when everything inside her was shaking. "Then show me how to shoot." Eli handed her the rifle. "Lesson 1 starts at dawn." The rifle kicked harder than Hannah expected. She stumbled backward, nearly dropping the weapon. Her shoulder throbbed where the stock had slammed into it. "Again," Eli said. "I missed." "You'll miss 100 times before you hit anything. Again." Hannah raised the rifle, lined up the tin can sitting on the fence post. Her arms shook. Her hands were slick with sweat despite the cold. She fired. Missed. "Your breathing's wrong." Eli moved behind her, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his presence. "You're holding your breath before you shoot. That tightens everything up." "So what do I do?" "Breathe out slow. Fire at the bottom of the exhale. Don't think. Just let it happen." Hannah tried again. "Breathe in. Breathe out. Squeeze." The can flew off the post. "There you go." Eli's voice held something that might have been approval. "Now do it 9 more times." They practiced until her arms were too sore to lift, until her shoulder was purple with bruises, until she could hit the can 7 times out of 10, even when her hands were shaking. Eli never praised her too much, never criticized too hard, just kept correcting, adjusting, pushing her forward. "Why 7 out of 10?" she asked when they finished. "Why not 10 out of 10? Because if you're shooting at a man, you only need to hit him once." Eli took the rifle from her hands. "And if you miss 3 times, you better hope he's dead by the 4th. Ruth was waiting on the porch when they came back. She'd been watching the whole time. Hannah could see it in the way she stood, arms crossed, chin lifted. "You're getting better," Ruth said. "Still not good enough." "Better than yesterday." Ruth's eyes moved to Eli. "Can you teach me to?" Eli stopped. "You want to learn?" "I want to protect my family." Something passed between them. Recognition maybe, or respect. Eli nodded once. "Tomorrow morning, same time as your mother." Ruth's jaw tightened. "Tonight. You need sleep. I need to know how to fight." Eli studied her for a long moment. Then he handed her the rifle. "Show me what you know." Ruth lifted the weapon like she'd been doing it her whole life. She aimed at the fence post, breathed out slow, and fired. The can exploded. "Where'd you learn that?" Hannah asked, stunned. "Pa taught me." Ruth lowered the rifle, her face unreadable. "Before he died. He said a woman who can't shoot is a woman who can't say no." Eli's expression shifted. Something dark moved behind his eyes. "Your father was a smart man," he said quietly. "He was." Ruth handed the rifle back. "He also said never trust a stranger. But he's not here anymore. So I guess I have to figure that part out myself." She walked inside without another word. That night, Hannah found Eli outside the barn, working by lantern light. He was building something. She could hear the steady rhythm of hammer on wood, see the shadows of boards being stacked. "What are you doing?" Eli didn't stop working. "Adding on to the cabin." "Why?" "Because if you're staying, you need more space. Kids can't sleep in the same room as the adults forever." Hannah's breath caught. "We never said we were staying." "No." Eli drove another nail home. "But you never said you were leaving either." She stood there watching him work. The lantern threw his shadow long across the snow. "Eli." "Yeah." "What happened to your wife? Really?" His hammer stopped mid-swing. For a long moment he just stood there, back to her shoulders, rigid. "I told you. Fire. You told me you were drunk, that you didn't smell the smoke." Hannah stepped closer. "But that's not the whole story, is it?" Eli set the hammer down slowly. When he turned to face her, his eyes were empty. I was supposed to be home that night. I'd promised Mary I'd fix the fence before dark. But I stopped at the saloon instead. Just one drink, I told myself. Just one. Eli. One drink turned into five. Five turned into, I don't remember. Next thing I knew, I was waking up in a ditch 2 miles from home and the sky was orange. His voice cracked. I ran. Ran faster than I've ever run in my life. But by the time I got there, he didn't finish. Hannah moved closer, put her hand on his arm, felt him flinch, but not pull away. It wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. You didn't start the fire. No, but I wasn't there to stop it. Eli's jaw clenched. The neighbors said Mary tried to get out. She had our boy in her arms, but the roof collapsed before she reached the door. They found them together, holding each other. Hannah's eyes burned. Oh, Eli. I buried them both that morning, dug the graves myself, and then I started drinking again because it was the only thing that made the noise in my head stop. He pulled away from her touch. So don't tell me it wasn't my fault. I know exactly whose fault it was. And now I don't drink, haven't touched a drop in 2 years. He picked up the hammer again. But I still hear them sometimes, late at night when it's too quiet. I hear my boy calling for me, and I can't answer. Hannah didn't know what to say, so she did the only thing that felt right. She reached out and took the hammer from his hands, set it down on the wood pile. Then she stepped forward and put her arms around him. He went rigid, every muscle locked up tight. What are you doing? Being human. She held on. Let me. For a long moment he didn't move, didn't breathe. Then slowly his arms came up around her. His face pressed into her hair. He shook, silent, broken. Hannah held him tighter. You're not that man anymore, she whispered. The one who drank. The one who ran away. That man died in that fire too. The man you are now, he carried my son through a blizzard. He stood down 4 armed men. He's building a room for children that aren't even his. That doesn't fix what I did. No, but it means something. She pulled back just enough to look at him. It means something to me. Eli stared at her. His eyes were wet, though he'd never admit it. Why are you being kind to me? Because someone should have been kind to you a long time ago. He didn't answer, just looked at her like she was something he couldn't understand, something he didn't deserve. Then he stepped back, wiped his face with the back of his hand. Room's almost done, he said, voice rough. Should be ready by end of the week. Hannah nodded. I'll help. You don't have to. I want to. She picked up the hammer and handed it back to him. Partners, remember? Something shifted in his face. The walls came down just a little. Partners, he agreed. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Mornings, Hannah and Ruth practiced shooting. Eli showed them how to reload fast, how to aim under pressure, how to use cover. Afternoons, they worked on the cabin. Hannah learned to measure boards to drive nails straight to patch gaps with mud and straw. Her hands blistered, bled, healed, blistered again. Evenings they ate together, talked sometimes, sat in silence others. Sammy told stories about dragons and pirates. Joe took his first real steps across the cabin floor. Ruth stopped watching Eli like he was a threat, started watching him like he was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. He built that whole room in 5 days, she said one night while Eli was outside checking the horses. Just for us. I know. Why would anyone do that for strangers? Hannah looked at her daughter. Maybe we're not strangers anymore. Ruth was quiet for a moment. Do you love him? The question hit Hannah like a punch to the chest. Ruth. I'm not stupid, Mama. I see the way you look at him, the way he looks at you. Ruth's voice was carefully neutral. I just want to know if it's real. Hannah sat down heavily. I don't know what it is. It's too soon to call it love, but he makes me feel Feel what? Safe. Hannah's voice cracked. He makes me feel safe, and I haven't felt that way since your father died. Ruth nodded slowly. Then she did something she hadn't done in months. She hugged her mother. I don't trust him completely, Ruth whispered, but I trust you. So if you say he's good, I'll believe you. Hannah held her daughter tight. When did you grow up so fast? When I had to. The door opened. Eli stepped inside, stomping snow off his boots. Weather's turning. Gonna be a bad one tonight. Everyone should stay close to the fire. Ruth pulled away from her mother and walked over to Eli. She stopped right in front of him, chin lifted, eyes fierce. Thank you, she said. Eli blinked. For what? For the room. For the lessons. For not being what I thought you were. For a moment, Eli didn't move. Then he reached out and put his hand on Ruth's shoulder. You're welcome. Ruth nodded once and walked away. Hannah watched Eli's face. Something had changed in it. Something soft. She's a good kid, he said. She's the best kid. Gets it from her father. And her mother. Hannah looked away. Her mother's just trying to survive. That's all any of us are doing. Eli moved past her toward the stove. I'm gonna make coffee. You want some? Yes. Then sit down. You've been on your feet all day. She sat, watched him move around the kitchen like he belonged there, like this was his home and they were his family. The thought should have scared her. It didn't. Widow Martha Price showed up 2 days later. Hannah heard the wagon before she saw it, creaking wheels, snorting horse. A woman's voice calling out to whoever would listen. Elijah Mercer, you open this door right now or I'm coming in anyway. Eli was at the door before Hannah could blink. Martha, what are you doing here? What do you think I'm doing? Heard you got visitors. A small woman pushed past him, all iron gray hair and sharp eyes. She stopped when she saw Hannah. So it's true. You've got a woman in here. She needed help. They always do. Martha's gaze swept over Hannah, assessing. You the widow from town, the one Dade's been talking about. Hannah's blood went cold. How do you know about that? Because Dade's been telling everyone who'll listen. Says you stole from him. Owes him money, favors all kinds of things. Martha's mouth twisted. Most folks know he's lying, but most folks are too scared to say so. Eli stepped forward. What do you mean he's been talking? I mean he's offering a reward, $50 to anyone who tells him where you are. Martha looked at Hannah with something like pity. You've got every drunk and drifter in the territory looking for you, honey. Hannah's legs went weak. $50. That's more than most men make in 3 months. Martha shook her head. Dade wants you bad. What does he really want? Eli's voice was tight. The money she owes him can't be more than $20. It's not about the money. It's about pride. Martha pulled off her gloves. That woman turned him down in front of witnesses, made him look like a fool. Men like Dade don't forget that. Hannah sank into a chair. So he'll never stop. Not until he gets what he wants. Martha moved closer. Which is why I'm here. To help. Help how? I've got a place about 10 miles north. Bigger property, more defendable. If things get bad here, you bring these children to me. Why would you do that? Martha's face softened. Because I had a daughter once. About your age. She trusted the wrong man, ended up dead in a ditch outside of Abilene. Her voice hardened. I couldn't save her. But maybe I can save you. Hannah looked at Eli. He nodded. Thank you, Hannah said. I don't know how to repay you. You don't repay kindness, honey. You pass it on. Martha straightened. Now where are these children I've been hearing about? The door burst open. Sammy ran in covered in snow, grinning from ear to ear. Mama, I made a snow fort. Ruth helped. It's got walls and everything. Martha's face transformed. The hardness melted away, replaced by something warm and hungry. "Well," she said, "aren't you just the finest thing?" Sammy stopped suddenly, shy. "Who are you?" "I'm Martha, and I'm about to be your new favorite person." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small wrapped package. "I brought cookies." Sammy's eyes went wide. "Real cookies. Real cookies. Sugar and everything." Hannah watched her son's face light up, watched Ruth come inside suspicious at first, then softening when Martha handed her a cookie too. "Thank you," Ruth said quietly. "You're welcome, child." Martha touched Ruth's cheek. "You've got strong eyes, like your mother." Ruth almost smiled. "People say I look like my pa." "Then he must have been handsome." Martha winked. "Now eat your cookie before your brother steals it." That night after Martha left, Hannah stood on the porch and watched the snow fall. Eli came out a few minutes later, stood beside her without speaking. "She's a good woman," Hannah said. "The best. She helped me when I first came out here. Didn't ask questions, didn't judge, just showed me how to survive." "Why does she care so much?" "Because she knows what it's like to lose everything." Eli's voice was quiet. "And she doesn't want anyone else to go through it alone." Hannah turned to look at him. "Is that why you helped me? Because you know what it's like?" "Partly." He met her eyes. "But not entirely." "Then why?" For a long moment, he didn't answer, just looked at her like he was memorizing her face. "Because when I saw you on that roadway," he said finally, "I saw myself, 3 years ago, broken, desperate, ready to die. And I thought, if someone had stopped for me back then, maybe things would have been different." "Different how?" "Maybe I wouldn't have lost everything. Maybe I wouldn't have spent 2 years hating myself." He looked away. "Maybe I would have found a reason to live sooner." Hannah's chest ached. "And now, do you have a reason?" Eli didn't answer for a long time. Then, "I'm starting to." She reached out, took his hand, felt his fingers close around hers. "Me too," she said. They stood there together, watching the snow fall, neither one willing to let go. The peace lasted 3 more days. Hannah was inside with the children when she heard the horses. Too many of them, moving fast. She grabbed the rifle. "Ruth, get your brother and sister. Take them to the cellar." "Mama." "Now," Ruth obeyed, scooping up Joe and dragging Sammy toward the back of the cabin. Hannah heard the cellar door slam shut. She moved to the window. Eli was already outside, rifle in hand, but this time it wasn't 4 riders, it was 12, and Cornelius Dade was at the front. "Elijah Mercer." Dade's voice carried across the clearing, thick with satisfaction. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Eli didn't respond, just stood there, rifle raised, waiting. "Don't be stupid, friend. There's 12 of us and 1 of you. I'm being generous by giving you a chance to walk away." "I don't walk away from my home." Dade laughed. "Your home? That shack ain't worth dying for." "It's not the shack I'm protecting." The laughter stopped. "Ah." Dade's voice turned cold. "So it's like that, is it? The widow's got her claws in you. Can't say I blame you, she's a pretty little thing. But she's mine. Mercer. Fair and square. She owes me a debt, and I intend to collect." Hannah's hands tightened on the rifle. She moved to the door, pushed it open, stepped outside. "I don't belong to anyone." Dade's eyes found her. That yellow smile spread across his face. "Mrs. Calloway, how lovely to see you again. I've missed our conversations." "I haven't. Now. There's no need for hostility." Dade spread his hands wide. "I'm a reasonable man. Just pay what you owe and we can all go home." "I don't owe you anything. $23 says different." Dade's smile sharpened. "Plus interest. Let's call it an even 30. "I don't have $30. "Then we'll have to work something out." His eyes moved over her body, slow and deliberate. "I'm sure we can come to an arrangement." Eli stepped forward. "She said no. I wasn't talking to you." "I don't care." Eli's voice was ice. "She said no. That means you ride out of here or you don't ride out at all." Dade's men shifted hands, moving toward their guns. "You really want to die for her?" Dade asked. "Already told your boys once. I've died for less." "That was 4 men. This is 12. "Then I'll take more of you with me." The silence stretched. Hannah could feel the tension like a living thing coiling tighter with every heartbeat. Then a new voice cut through the standoff. "Actually, it's 14 against 12. Martha Price stepped out from behind the barn, a shotgun in her hands. Behind her, 2 more figures, neighbors Hannah had never met, each armed and ready. "You forgot about me, Cornelius." Martha's voice was calm as death. "And I never forget about you." Dade's face twisted. "This isn't your fight, old woman. Any fight against a snake like you is my fight." Martha cocked her shotgun. "Now you've got a choice. Ride away and keep your men alive, or stay and see how many of them I can drop before you reach your gun." The standoff held for an eternity. Then Dade raised his hand. "Fall back." His men hesitated. One of them, the one called Hartley, stepped forward. "Boss, we got them outnumbered." "I said fall back." Dade's voice cracked like a whip. "We'll finish this another time." He looked at Hannah one last time. That yellow smile never wavered. "This isn't over, Mrs. Calloway, not by a long shot." Then he wheeled his horse around and rode away. Hannah didn't lower her rifle until the hoofbeats faded to nothing. Then her legs gave out. Eli caught her before she hit the ground. "I've got you," he said. "I've got you." Martha approached, shotgun resting against her shoulder. "That man's not going to stop," she said. "You know that, right?" Hannah nodded, her whole body shaking. "Then what are we going to do?" Eli looked at Martha, looked at the neighbors who'd come to help, looked at Hannah still trembling in his arms. "We're going to stop him first." The plan was simple. Too simple. "We take the fight to him," Eli said, spreading a rough map across the table, "before he can come back with more men." Martha shook her head. "You're talking about riding into town and confronting Cornelius Dade in front of everyone. That's not a plan. That's suicide." "You got a better idea." "Yes, we wait. Let him make the first move. Document everything. Build a case." "A case?" Hannah's voice cracked. "Martha, he's got the sheriff in his pocket. There's no case to build." "Then we go over the sheriff's head. There's a federal marshal in Cheyenne. If we can prove Dade's been, that's 3 weeks' ride." Eli cut her off. "In this weather, might as well be 3 months. So what do you suggest? Storm his store with guns blazing?" "If that's what it takes." "You'll die." "Maybe." Eli's jaw tightened. "But at least I'll die doing something, not hiding in a cabin waiting for him to come finish what he started." Hannah stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "Nobody's dying. You hear me? Not you, not Martha, not anyone." "Hannah." "No." She slammed her palm on the table. "I won't let you throw your life away for me. I've already lost 1 man. She stopped. The words hung in the air unfinished. Eli stared at her. "1 man you—" "What?" Hannah's throat closed. She couldn't say it. Couldn't admit what had been growing inside her these past weeks. "1 man I trusted." She finished. "I can't lose another." The silence stretched between them. Martha looked from one to the other, then quietly stood. "I'm going to check on the children," she said. "You two need to figure this out." She left without another word. Eli moved closer. "Hannah, don't. You can't protect everyone. Watch me. That's not how this works." He reached for her hand. She pulled away. "You can't keep running. Sooner or later you have to stand and fight." "I know how to fight. You taught me." "Fighting with a rifle isn't the same as fighting for your life." Eli's voice dropped. Dade's not going to stop. You saw his face. This isn't about money anymore. It's personal. Then let me handle it. Let me go to him. Give him what he wants. Eli's face went white. What? If I go back, he'll leave you alone. Leave the children alone. This whole thing ends. Are you out of your mind? I'm being practical. You're being a martyr. Eli grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. You think I'm going to let you walk into that man's hands after everything? It's not your choice. The hell it isn't. His grip tightened. You're not going anywhere. Not to Dade, not to anyone. You're staying right here where I can protect you. I don't need your protection. Yes, you do. His voice broke. Because I can't lose you too, Hannah. I already lost everything once. I can't do it again. Hannah's anger shattered. She saw it then, the fear behind his eyes, the desperation he'd been hiding. This wasn't about pride or stubbornness. This was about a man who'd buried his wife and son, who'd spent 2 years drinking himself to death, who'd finally found something worth living for, and he was terrified of losing it. Eli. Her voice softened. I'm not going anywhere. Promise me. I promise. He pulled her close, held her like she might disappear if he let go. We'll figure this out, he said into her hair. Together. But you don't sacrifice yourself. Not for me, not for anyone. You hear me? I hear you. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other in the middle of the cabin, while the wind howled outside. Then Sammy started coughing. It started small. Just a tickle in his throat, nothing serious. Hannah gave him water, made him rest, didn't think much of it. By morning, he couldn't stop. Mama. Ruth shook her awake before dawn. Something's wrong with Sammy. Hannah was up before she finished the sentence. Sammy lay on his cot. His small body racked with coughs that seemed to tear him apart from the inside. His face was flushed, his breathing ragged. Baby, can you hear me? Hannah pressed her hand to his forehead. Burning. Sammy, open your eyes. His lids fluttered. Mama. Hurts. What hurts? Everything. Hannah's heart stopped. She'd seen this before. In Missouri, when the fever swept through their town. Children who were fine one day, dead the next. Coughs that turned to pneumonia. Bodies too small to fight. Ruth, get Eli. Now. Ruth ran. Eli burst through the door 30 seconds later, still pulling on his shirt. What happened? He's burning up. Can't stop coughing. Hannah's voice shook. It came on so fast. Eli knelt beside the cot, pressed his ear to Sammy's chest. His face went grim. His lungs are full of something. Fluid, maybe. He needs a doctor. Where's the nearest one? Town. 8 miles. Eli stood. I'll ride fast. In this weather, there's a storm coming. I know. You could die out there. Your son could die in here. Eli grabbed his coat. Which one matters more? Hannah couldn't argue, couldn't do anything but watch him prepare to ride into a blizzard for a child that wasn't even his. Eli. He stopped at the door. Come back to me. His eyes met hers. Something passed between them. Fear, hope, love. Everything they hadn't said out loud. I will. Then he was gone. The next hours were the longest of Hannah's life. She stayed beside Sammy, cooling his forehead with wet cloths, forcing water between his cracked lips. He drifted in and out, sometimes lucid, sometimes lost in fever dreams. Mama. His voice was so small. Where's Pa? Hannah's heart cracked. Pa's not here, baby. I see him sometimes. In my dreams. He's smiling. What does he say? He says I'm gonna be okay. Sammy's eyes fluttered. Is he right, Mama? Am I gonna be okay? Hannah couldn't answer. The tears came too fast. Ruth sat in the corner holding Joe, her face carved from stone. She hadn't cried once, hadn't spoken since Eli left. Ruth. No response. Ruth, honey, talk to me. What do you want me to say? Ruth's voice was flat. That everything's going to be fine. That Sammy's going to live. That Mr. Eli's going to come back with a doctor and save the day. I want you to believe it. I can't. Ruth's chin trembled. I can't believe in anything anymore. Every time I do, it goes away. Hannah crossed the room and knelt beside her daughter, took her face in her hands. Listen to me. Your brother is strong. Eli is strong. And we're going to get through this. All of us. How do you know? Because I refuse to accept anything else. Ruth stared at her for a long moment. Then she broke. The tears came all at once, huge, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Hannah pulled her close, held her tight, let her cry. I'm so scared, Mama. I know, baby. Me too. I don't want Sammy to die. He won't. You can't promise that. I'm promising anyway. The storm hit 2 hours after Eli left. Hannah heard it coming, the wind picking up the walls, groaning. The temperature dropping so fast she could see her breath inside the cabin. She fed the fire, checked on Sammy, paced. Martha had gone back to her place before the storm, promising to return when it passed. Now Hannah wished she'd asked her to stay. Mama. Ruth's voice was small. What if Mr. Eli doesn't make it? He'll make it. But the storm, he'll make it. Hannah said it like a prayer. Like if she repeated it enough times it would become true. Sammy's coughing got worse. His fever climbed higher. Hannah did everything she could. Cool cloths, warm broth, prayers whispered over his small body. Nothing helped. By midnight his breathing had turned shallow, ragged, wrong. Mama! Ruth's voice was sharp. He's not breathing right. Hannah was already moving. She lifted Sammy, propped him against her chest, rubbed his back. Come on, baby. Breathe for Mama. Breathe. His chest hitched. Once. Twice. Then nothing. Sammy! She shook him, pounded on his back, screamed his name. Nothing. No! 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 Ruth was crying. Joe was wailing. The wind was screaming outside, and Sammy wasn't breathing. Hannah tilted his head back, covered his mouth with hers, and breathed. 1 breath. 2. 3. Come on. Come on. His chest rose, fell, rose again. Then he coughed. Once. Twice. A horrible wet sound that seemed to tear something loose inside him. He gasped, sucked in air, and started crying. Mama! Hannah sobbed with relief. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I couldn't breathe. I know, but you're okay now. You're okay. She held him against her chest and rocked, tears streaming down her face. Ruth collapsed beside her, one hand on Sammy's back, the other covering her mouth. I thought he was gone, Ruth whispered. I thought, he's not gone. He's right here. Hannah kissed her son's forehead. He's right here. But she knew in her bones, in her blood, that he wouldn't survive another episode. If Eli didn't come back with help, Sammy would die before morning. The door burst open 3 hours later. Hannah had the rifle up before she saw who it was. It's me. Eli's voice hoarse and broken. Don't shoot. She dropped the gun and ran to him. He was covered in snow, his face raw from windburn, his lips cracked and bleeding. Behind him, a stranger, older man, gray-bearded, carrying a black bag. Got the doctor, Eli said. Then his legs gave out. Hannah caught him before he hit the floor. His coat was soaked through with something dark. Blood. Eli, you're hurt? Don't worry about me. Help the boy. He pushed her away, stumbling toward the wall. Doctor, do your job. The doctor didn't need to be told twice. He crossed to Sammy's cot, opened his bag, started examining him. Hannah turned back to Eli. He'd slid down the wall, leaving a dark smear behind him. What happened? Horse threw me. Eli's voice was weak. About a mile out. Landed on some rocks. Kept riding anyway. Let me see. I'm fine. Let me see. She pulled his coat open. His shirt was soaked red, a jagged gash running from his shoulder to his ribs. Oh God. Eli. It looks worse than it is. You're bleeding everywhere. I've had worse. He tried to smile. Failed. How's the boy? Hannah looked at the doctor. He was listening to Sammy's chest, his face unreadable. Doctor. The old man looked up. Pneumonia. Both lungs. He's got maybe 12 hours if we don't get the fluid out. Can you save him? The doctor reached into his bag and pulled out a small vial. This is quinine. It'll fight the infection. But I need to drain his lungs first. It's going to hurt. He's going to scream. You need to hold him down. Hannah nodded. Do it. Mrs. Calloway. I said do it. The next hour was hell. Sammy screamed when the needle went in, screamed until his voice gave out. Hannah held him down, tears streaming down her face while Ruth covered Joe's ears in the corner. Eli watched from the wall, too weak to help his face gray with pain and blood loss. The doctor worked steadily draining fluid, administering medicine, checking and rechecking. When it was finally over, Sammy lay still on the cot, his breathing easier, his color slowly returning. He'll live, the doctor said. If the fever breaks by morning, he'll live. Hannah's legs gave out. She sank to the floor beside her son's cot, one hand on his chest, feeling it rise and fall. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. The doctor turned to Eli. Now let me look at you. I'm fine. You've lost enough blood to kill a man. Shut up and let me work. Eli didn't argue. The doctor stitched him up right there against the wall using whiskey to clean the wound and leather to bite down on. Eli didn't make a sound, but Hannah saw his hands shake. When it was done, the doctor stood and wiped his hands. He needs rest. So does the boy. Keep them both warm, force fluids, and pray. He picked up his bag. I'll be back in 2 days to check on them. You're leaving in this storm. Storm's past, and I've got other patients. He paused at the door. Mrs. Calloway, that man rode 8 miles through a blizzard with a hole in his side. Most men would have given up after one. He's either the bravest man I've ever met or the stupidest. Hannah looked at Eli slumped against the wall, barely conscious. Probably both, she said. The doctor almost smiled. Take care of him. Men like that are rare. Then he was gone. Hannah didn't sleep that night. She sat between Sammy's cot and Eli's corner, watching them both breathe. Ruth had finally fallen asleep with Joe in her arms, exhaustion winning over fear. Around 3 a.m, Sammy's fever broke. Hannah felt his forehead, then checked again. Cool. Not burning. Cool. Thank God, she whispered. Thank God. A weak voice came from across the room. He's okay. Hannah turned. Eli was awake, his eyes glassy with pain, but focused on her face. He's okay. Fever broke. Something loosened in Eli's expression. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. Good. That's good. Hannah crossed to him, knelt beside him. His shirt was stiff with dried blood, his face pale as paper. You almost died tonight. But I didn't. You could have. That wound is just a scratch. It's not a scratch. The doctor said you lost too much blood. Said most men would have stopped. I'm not most men. I know. Hannah's voice cracked. That's what scares me. Eli reached up with his good arm, touched her face. His hand was cold, trembling. I made you a promise, he said. Told you I'd come back. You almost didn't. Almost doesn't count. He tried to smile again. This time it almost worked. I would have crawled through hell to get back to you, Hannah. Don't you know that by now? She couldn't speak. The tears came too fast. Hey. Eli's thumb brushed her cheek. None of that. Everyone's alive. That's what matters. But what if you hadn't made it? What if Sammy had died? What if... We can play what if all night. Won't change anything. He shifted, wincing. What matters is right now. This moment. You, me, those kids over there. We're all still breathing. That's more than a lot of folks can say. Hannah leaned forward, pressed her forehead to his. I love you. The words came out before she could stop them, before she could think about whether it was too soon, too fast, too dangerous. Eli went still. What did you say? I love you. Hannah pulled back just enough to look at him. I didn't want to. Tried not to. But I do. And if you die on me, Elijah Mercer, I will never forgive you. For a long moment he just stared at her. Then his hand moved to the back of her neck and pulled her close. I love you too, he said against her lips. Been loving you since the moment I saw you on that road, too stubborn to die. That's not... Shut up and kiss me, woman. She did. It wasn't a gentle kiss, wasn't careful or cautious. It was desperate and hungry, and full of everything they'd been holding back. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Marry me, Eli said. Hannah blinked. What? When spring comes, when this is all over, marry me. You're delirious. Probably, but I mean it. His eyes were steady despite the pain. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Hannah Calloway. However long that is, whatever it takes. I want to be your husband, and I want to be a father to those children. Hannah's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. Ruth doesn't trust you. She will. Sammy's just a boy. He doesn't understand. I'll teach him. Joe won't remember his real father. Then I'll make sure he has a good one. Hannah laughed, a broken, sobbing sound. You have an answer for everything. Not everything, just the important things. Eli's hand found hers. So what do you say? She looked at him. This man who'd carried her children through a blizzard, who'd ridden through a storm with a hole in his side, who'd almost died, trying to save a boy that wasn't his. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. Eli's smile was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Good. Now help me get to a bed. This floor is killing me. She laughed again, tears still streaming down her face. Come on, old man. Let's get you up. I'm not old. You're older than me? 6 years. That's nothing. It's something. It's nothing. He leaned on her as she helped him stand. Besides, you like older men. I like you. There's a difference. Is there? Shut up and walk. They made it to the cot Eli had built for himself. Hannah helped him lie down, covered him with blankets, checked his bandage. Stay, he said, catching her hand. Don't go. I need to watch Sammy. You can see him from here. His grip tightened. Stay with me, please. Hannah hesitated. Then she lay down beside him, careful of his wounded side. Happy? Getting there. He pulled her close with his good arm. This is better. You're impossible. And you're beautiful. You're delirious. Maybe. He kissed her forehead. But I'm also right. They fell asleep like that, tangled together on a narrow cot, while their children breathed steady on the other side of the room. When Ruth woke up an hour later and saw them, she didn't say anything. She just smiled. Dawn broke cold and clear. Hannah woke to the sound of voices outside. She sat up fast, reaching for the rifle that wasn't there. Easy. Martha's voice came from the doorway. It's just me. Hannah's heart slowed. You scared me. Sorry. Martha stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Came to check on the boy. How is he? Fever broke last night. Doctor said he'll live. Thank God. Martha's eyes moved to Eli, still sleeping on the cot. And him. He almost bled out, but he made it. Martha nodded slowly. Then her expression shifted. Hannah, there's something you should know. What? Dade's dead. Hannah's blood went cold. What? His men found him this morning, in his store. Someone put a knife in his throat. Who? Nobody knows. But there's talk. Martha's voice dropped. Some folks are saying Eli did it, that he stopped in town before getting the doctor, that he killed Dade, and then rode out like nothing happened. Hannah looked at Eli's sleeping form, his wounded side, his pale face. That's impossible. He was barely conscious when he got back. He couldn't have. I know, but folks don't care about logic when they want someone to blame. Martha stepped closer. The sheriff's on his way. He'll be here by noon. If Eli's awake, he needs to be ready. Hannah's mind raced. He didn't do this. Can you prove it? The doctor was with him. He can vouch. The doctor left before dawn. Nobody knows where he went. Martha's face was grim. Hannah, I believe you. But the sheriff doesn't care about truth. He cares about closing cases, and Eli's the easiest answer. Hannah looked at her sleeping children, at Eli, at everything she'd almost lost. Then we'll find another answer, she said. Before noon. Hannah didn't have much time. She shook Eli awake, ignoring his groan of protest. Get up. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Dade's dead. Someone killed him last night. And the sheriff thinks you did it. Eli's eyes snapped open. What? Martha just told me. Sheriff's coming. Be here by noon. I didn't. I know you didn't. Hannah grabbed his arm, helped him sit up. But we need to prove it. Can you ride? I can try. Then get dressed. We're going to town. Ruth appeared in the doorway. Mama, what's happening? Stay here with your brothers. Martha's going to watch you. But, Ruth. Hannah knelt in front of her daughter. I need you to be brave. Can you do that? Ruth's jaw tightened. The same stubborn look Hannah saw in the mirror every morning. Yes, Mama. Good girl. Hannah kissed her forehead. We'll be back before dark, I promise. They rode hard despite Eli's wound. Every jolt made him wince, but he didn't complain, just gripped the reins tighter and kept moving. You shouldn't be doing this, Hannah said. Neither should you. I'm not the one who almost bled to death last night. And I'm not the one who's about to confront an entire town. Eli's face was grim. We're both doing things we shouldn't. Then I guess we're perfect for each other. He almost smiled. Guess so. The town appeared after 2 hours of riding. Hannah felt her stomach clench as they approached. This was where it all started, where Dade had cornered her, where the sheriff had turned a blind eye, where she'd been forced to run with 3 children and nothing else. Now she was riding back, with a man she loved, to fight for their future. Ready? Eli asked. No. Me neither. He reached over and took her hand. Let's do it anyway. They dismounted in front of the general store. The same store where Dade had grabbed her arm, whispered his threats made her skin crawl. Now the windows were dark. A small crowd had gathered outside. Well, well, a voice cut through the murmur. Look who decided to show up. Sheriff Tom Briggs stepped forward, his badge catching the weak winter sun. He was a big man, gone soft around the middle, with eyes that never quite met yours. Mrs. Calloway, Mr. Mercer. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I was just about to ride out to your place. Save yourself the trip, Eli said. I'm here. So I see. Briggs' hand rested on his gun belt. You know why I wanted to talk to you. I can guess. Cornelius Dade's dead, throat cut, sometime last night. Briggs's eyes narrowed. You got an alibi? I was fetching a doctor for a sick child. Ask Doc Henderson. I would, but Doc Henderson seems to have disappeared. Left town before dawn, nobody knows where. Hannah's heart sank. Without the doctor's testimony, they had nothing. That's convenient, Briggs continued. Real convenient. I didn't kill Dade? Maybe. Maybe not. Briggs stepped closer. But here's what I know. You had motive. The man was hunting a woman you're sweet on. You had opportunity. You were in town last night. And now the only witness to your whereabouts is gone. That's circumstantial. That's enough for me. Briggs reached for his handcuffs. Elijah Mercer, you're under arrest for the murder of Cornelius Dade. No. Hannah stepped between them, her heart pounding. He didn't do it. He couldn't have. When he got back to the cabin, he was barely conscious. He'd lost so much blood he could hardly stand. So you say. It's the truth. Ma'am, with all due respect, you're not exactly an unbiased witness. Briggs' smile turned cruel. Everyone knows you've been shacking up with this man for weeks. You'd say anything to protect him. Hannah's face burned. That's not... Step aside, Mrs. Calloway, or I'll arrest you too. On what charge? Obstruction, harboring a fugitive, take your pick. Eli put his hand on Hannah's shoulder. Don't. I won't let them take you. You don't have a choice. His voice was steady, resigned. Not right now. Eli, take care of the children. He pulled away from her, held out his wrist to Briggs. I'll be fine. The handcuffs clicked shut. Hannah watched them lead Eli away, her whole body shaking with rage and helplessness. This wasn't right. This wasn't justice. This was a town that had let Dade terrorize women for years now, looking for someone to blame. This isn't over, she called after them. Briggs looked back with a smirk. It is for him. Hannah didn't go home. She went to the saloon. If anyone knew what really happened to Dade, it would be the people who spent their nights drinking away their secrets. The bartender, the regulars, the working girls who saw everything and said nothing. The place was nearly empty when she pushed through the doors. A few old men nursing drinks. A tired-looking woman sweeping the floor. The bartender polishing glasses behind the counter. We're not open, he said without looking up. I'm not here to drink. Hannah approached the bar. I'm here for information. Now he looked at her. His eyes widened slightly. You're the widow, the one Dade was after. Yes. Heard about your man. Tough break. He didn't do it. The bartender shrugged. Makes no difference to me either way. It makes a difference to me. Hannah leaned forward. Someone killed Dade last night. Someone who wasn't Eli Mercer. And I need to know who. Lady, even if I knew something, why would I tell you? Because Dade wasn't a good man. Everyone in this town knows it. And whoever killed him did this place a favor. Hannah's voice dropped. I'm not looking for justice. I'm looking for truth. Help me find it and I'll never speak your name. The bartender studied her for a long moment. Then he set down his glass. There's a girl upstairs. Name's Rosie. She was working the night Dade died. He paused. She might know something, but she won't talk to strangers. Then introduce me. It'll cost you. How much? $5. Hannah pulled the coins from her pocket, the last of what she had. Take it. The bartender pocketed the money and jerked his head toward the stairs. Second door on the left. Knock twice. Rosie was younger than Hannah expected. Maybe 20, with tired eyes and bruises on her wrists she tried to hide with long sleeves. Who are you? She asked, not opening the door all the way. Hannah Calloway. I need to talk to you about Cornelius Dade. Rosie's face went pale. I don't know anything. Please. Hannah paused. The man I love is going to hang for a murder he didn't commit. If you know something, anything. I said I don't know anything. Rosie, Hannah's voice cracked. I have 3 children. If Eli dies, I have nothing. No home, no money, no way to keep them safe. Please. Something shifted in Rosie's expression. Pain, recognition, understanding. Come inside, she said. Quick, before someone sees. The room was small, cramped. Rosie sat on the bed, her hands twisting in her lap. I didn't see who killed him, she said. But I know who was with him that night. Who? Hartley, Bill Hartley. Dade's right-hand man. Rosie's voice dropped. They were arguing. I heard them through the wall. Something about money, about Dade cheating him out of his share. His share of what? I don't know. But Hartley was angry, really angry. Said he'd done everything Dade asked, the threats, the beatings, the running people out of town, and all he got was scraps. Hannah's mind raced. And then what? And then I heard something crash. Glass breaking. Then, nothing. Rosie looked down. When I came out an hour later, Dade was dead and Hartley was gone. Did you tell the sheriff? Rosie laughed a bitter, broken sound. Sheriff's in Hartley's pocket, same as he was in Dade's. He wouldn't believe me if I drew him a picture. Then tell someone who will. Hannah grabbed Rosie's hands. Come with me. Testify. They'll kill me. I'll protect you. You can't protect yourself. How are you going to protect me? Because I'm not alone anymore. Hannah squeezed her hands. There are people who stood up against Dade. Good people. They'll stand up for you too. Rosie's eyes filled with tears. Why do you care what happens to me? Because someone helped me when I had nothing. Now I'm going to do the same. Hannah stood. Please, Rosie, help me save an innocent man. For a long moment, Rosie didn't move. Then she wiped her eyes and nodded. Okay, I'll do it. They found Martha at the edge of town waiting with a wagon. I had a feeling you'd need backup, she said. Who's your friend? Rosie. She knows who really killed Dade. Martha's eyebrows rose. Well, get in, both of you. They rode to the jailhouse. Hannah's heart pounded the whole way. Sheriff Briggs was outside smoking a cigarette, looking pleased with himself. Mrs. Calloway, back so soon. I have a witness. Hannah helped Rosie down from the wagon. Someone who saw what really happened last night. Briggs's smile faltered. What are you talking about? Bill Hartley. Hannah stepped forward. He was with Dade the night he died. They were arguing about money. And an hour later, Dade was dead. That's ridiculous. Is it? Martha stepped up beside Hannah. Because I happen to know Hartley's been skimming from Dade's accounts for years. Everyone in town knows it. Maybe Dade finally found out. Maybe Hartley decided to shut him up. You can't prove any of that. I can. Rosie's voice was small but steady. I was there. I heard everything. Briggs's face went red. The word of a whore against a respected, careful sheriff. Martha's voice turned dangerous. That girl's got more courage than you've ever had. And she's not the only one who saw things. What do you mean? I mean there are people in this town who are tired of being scared. Tired of Dade and his men running roughshod over everyone. Martha stepped closer. You let that innocent man hang and they're going to start talking. About everything. All the bribes you took. All the crimes you ignored. Everything. Briggs's face went from red to white. You're bluffing. Try me. The silence stretched. Then a voice came from inside the jail. She's not bluffing, Tom. Everyone turned. A man stepped out of the shadows, older weathered, wearing a federal marshal's badge. Marshal Crawford. Briggs' voice cracked. What are you doing here? Got a telegram 2 days ago. Anonymous tip about corruption in this town. Crawford's eyes were cold. Figured I'd come see for myself. There's no corruption. Save it. Crawford held up his hand. I've been watching since last night. Saw Hartley leave Dade's store around midnight. Saw him washing blood off his hands in the horse trough. He paused. I've got all the evidence I need. Briggs' hand moved toward his gun. Don't. Crawford's voice was ice. You're already looking at 10 years for taking bribes. You want to add resisting arrest to that? Briggs froze. Crawford walked past him and unlocked the jail door. Mr. Mercer, you're free to go. Eli emerged blinking in the sunlight. His eyes found Hannah immediately. She ran to him. You're okay, she breathed. You're okay. Thanks to you. He pulled her close with his good arm. What did you do? Found the truth. She looked up at him. Told you I wouldn't let them take you. I should have known better than to doubt you. Marshal Crawford cleared his throat. Mr. Mercer, Mrs. Calloway, you're both free to go. I'll be handling things from here. What about Hartley? Hannah asked. Already got men tracking him. He won't get far. Crawford tipped his hat. Go home. Take care of your family. This town's got enough to deal with. They didn't need to be told twice. The ride back felt different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted that Hannah didn't even know she'd been carrying. I can't believe it's over, she said. Believe it. Eli's arm tightened around her waist. Dade's dead. Briggs is finished. We're safe. For now. Forever. He kissed her temple. I meant what I said last night. I want to marry you. Build a life with you. Be a father to your children. Even after all this. Especially after all this. He pulled back to look at her. Hannah, I spent 3 years running from everything. From my past. From my pain. From the possibility that I might ever care about anything again. His voice roughened. Then I found you on that road. You and those 3 children. And something broke open inside me. Eli. Let me finish. He took her face in his hands. You showed me that it's possible to lose everything and still have something worth fighting for. You showed me that strength isn't about not being afraid, it's about being afraid and doing it anyway. You showed me that love doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. So yes, Eli continued. Even after all this, especially after all this, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, whatever that looks like, wherever that takes us. He paused. Will you let me? She kissed him, not gently, not carefully, with everything she had. When they finally broke apart, both of them were shaking. Is that a yes? He asked. That's a yes. The children were waiting on the porch when they got back. Sammy ran to them first, throwing himself at Eli's legs with enough force to make him stagger. You came back, Mama said you would, but I was scared. I always come back. Eli lifted him up, ignoring the pull on his wound. You feeling better? Much better. Miss Martha made me soup, and Ruth told me stories, and Joe learned a new word. What word? Sammy grinned. No. Eli laughed a real laugh from deep in his chest. That sounds about right. Ruth approached more slowly, her eyes searching their faces. Is it over? She asked. Hannah nodded. It's over. The bad men, gone. All of them. Ruth's composure cracked. She threw her arms around Hannah's waist and held on tight. I was so scared, Mama. When you left, I thought, I know, baby, but I'm here. We're both here. Hannah stroked her daughter's hair. And we're not going anywhere. Martha appeared in the doorway, Joe on her hip. Well, she said, looks like everything worked out. Thanks to you. Hannah met her eyes. I don't know how to repay you. I told you before, you don't repay kindness, you pass it on. Martha smiled. Besides, I'm getting too old to fight battles by myself. Nice to have some young folks around who still believe in doing the right thing. Does that mean you'll stay? Sammy asked. I like your cookies. Martha laughed. Tell you what, I'll come visit every Sunday. Bring cookies. Maybe teach you how to make them yourself. Really? Really. Eli set Sammy down and approached Martha. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. Martha's eyes twinkled. I hear there's a wedding coming. That means I'm going to need a new dress, and someone's going to have to pay for it. Hannah laughed. We'll figure something out. I'm sure you will. Martha handed Joe to Eli and reached for her coat. Now I'd better get home before dark. You folks have a lot to talk about. She hugged Hannah tight before she left. Whispered in her ear, He's a good one. Don't let him go. I won't. That night after the children were asleep, Hannah and Eli sat on the porch together. The snow was melting. The air was warmer. Somewhere in the distance, a bird was singing the first sign of spring. Hard to believe it's almost over, Hannah said. Winter, I mean. Been a long one. The longest of my life. She leaned against his shoulder. But also the best. Even with everything that happened. Because of everything that happened. She looked up at him. If you hadn't found me on that road, I'd be dead. My children would be dead. Or worse. Don't think about that. I can't help it. But I also think about this. She gestured at the cabin, the clearing, the mountains in the distance. All of this. It wouldn't exist without that terrible day. Without the pain. Without the fear. Eli was quiet for a moment. You know what my father used to say? He said that God never closes a door without opening a window. Do you believe that? I didn't used to. His arm tightened around her. But I'm starting to. Me too. They sat in silence for a while longer, watching the stars come out. When do you want to get married? Hannah asked. Tomorrow, if I could. Be serious. I am serious. He looked down at her. But I know that's not realistic. So, spring. When the snow's gone and the flowers are blooming. When everything's starting fresh. That sounds perfect. Yeah. He kissed her forehead. Then spring it is. They held the wedding on the first day of April. Not in a church, there wasn't one close enough. But under a tree behind the cabin where the first blossoms were just starting to open. Martha officiated because no one else would do. We're gathered here today, she said, to witness something beautiful. Two people who found each other in the worst of circumstances and chose to build something better. Hannah looked at Eli. He was wearing his best shirt, the one with the least patches, and he'd trimmed his beard. His eyes were shining. Elijah Mercer, Martha continued. Do you take this woman to be your wife, to love her, protect her, and stand beside her through whatever comes? I do. And do you promise to be a father to her children, to raise them as your own, to teach them right from wrong, and to love them without condition? I do. Martha turned to Hannah. Hannah Calloway, do you take this man to be your husband, to love him, support him, and trust him with your heart? I do. And do you promise to let him in, to share your burdens, your joys, and your future with him? Hannah's voice cracked. I do. Then by the power vested in me by absolutely no one except common sense and the good Lord above, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Martha grinned. Kiss her already. Eli didn't need to be told twice. The kiss was long, deep, and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. Mama, Sammy's voice rang out. Are you and Mr. Eli married now? Yes, baby. We are. Does that mean he's our pa now? Hannah looked at Eli. He knelt down to Sammy's level. Only if you want me to be. Sammy's face scrunched up in thought. Will you teach me to ride a horse? Yes. And shoot a gun. When you're older. And make wooden toys like the horse you made me. As many as you want. Sammy grinned. Okay, you can be my pa. Eli pulled him into a hug so tight the boy squeaked. Ruth approached more slowly. She stopped in front of Eli, her face serious. I'm not going to call you pa, she said. I had a pa. He's gone. I know. But, she hesitated. I could call you Eli, if that's okay. That's more than okay. Ruth nodded once, then so quietly Hannah almost didn't hear it. Thank you. For saving us. Eli reached out and squeezed her shoulder. Thank you for letting me. Even Joe in Hannah's arms seemed to sense something important was happening. He reached toward Eli with chubby hands, babbling something that sounded almost like "da." Hannah laughed through her tears. "I think he's voting yes, too." Eli took the baby, held him close. "Welcome to the family, little man." The celebration was small but perfect. Martha had brought food enough to feed an army. The neighbors who'd stood with them against Dade came too, bringing gifts and well wishes. Even Rosie showed up wearing a new dress and looking younger than Hannah had ever seen her. "I wanted to thank you," she said quietly, "for believing in me when no one else did." "What will you do now?" Hannah asked. "Start over, somewhere new." Rosie smiled a real smile, not the tired imitation she'd worn before. "The marshal helped me get some money, enough to make a fresh start." "Where will you go?" "Don't know yet, but wherever it is, I'll be free." She hugged Hannah tight. "Thank you for everything." As the sun set and the guests departed, Hannah stood in the doorway of her new home and watched the world turn golden. Eli came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That 3 months ago I was dying on a road in the middle of nowhere. I had nothing. No hope, no help, no future." She turned in his arms. "And now I have everything." "Not everything," Eli said. "We've still got a lot of work to do. The cabin needs repairs. The fence needs mending. The children need—" "I have everything that matters." She put her hand on his chest, felt his heartbeat beneath her palm. "I have you. I have my children. I have a home. The rest is just details." "Just details, huh?" "Just details." He kissed her slow and sweet, like they had all the time in the world, because now they did. "I love you, Hannah Mercer," he said against her lips. She smiled at the sound of her new name. "I love you too, Eli." From inside the cabin, Sammy's voice rang out. "Mama Ruth won't give me the last cookie." "That's because you already had 3, Ruth shouted back. Joe started crying. Hannah laughed. "Duty calls." "Always does." Eli stepped back, still holding her hand. "Ready." She looked at him. This man who'd carried her children through a blizzard, who'd ridden through a storm to save her son, who'd stood against an entire town to protect her. "With you," she said. "Always." They walked inside together, closing the door on the past and opening it to the future. Outside, the last snow of winter melted into the earth. The trees stretched toward the warming sun. The world turned green again, full of possibility and promise. And inside the cabin, a family broken, healed, and forged in fire began their new life. Not because the road had been easy, but because they'd walked it together. And in the end, that made all the difference. Years later, when people asked Hannah Mercer about her life, she always told them the same thing. "I was lost once, broken, ready to give up. But then a cowboy found me on a frozen road, looked at my 3 children, and said the words that changed everything." "What words?" they would ask. And Hannah would smile, her eyes bright with tears and joy and gratitude. "He said I can carry them all." And he did, every single day, for the rest of their lives.